Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Mismatch. So today we have Lisa Chang in the house. I'm very excited. She is a tech and lifestyle expert, public speaker, and mom. She has over 25 years of experience in the tech space. Casual. You've seen her on Breakfast Television, The Good Stuff on CTV, and Global's Morning Show. But you know, what she's really known for, and to her core, she's really passionate about how tech impacts real life, relationships, and well-being. And as the creator of the Health Tech Up, see what she did there? Lisa explores the intersection of tech, mental health, and modern habits, asking the question that I think a lot of us constantly ask ourselves and think really, is it helping us? Or is it hurting us? And so she's here to share some warm, insightful, and deeply relatable topics. Lisa, I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much, Nick. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, of course. So the way that this happened is we were at a fitness class together. And we were both like, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go, Lisa. You're like, me either. So, and now we're here.
You mean the class where we signed up for Pilates, but it was actually a HIIT class?
It was a HIIT class. And I walked out of there and I was like, I'm sweating. And I wasn't planning on sweating.
I know, me too. Needed some serious protein after that one.
Yeah, nonetheless, it was fun.
It was.
I'm really excited to have you on the show, particularly because we've never talked about health specifically. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about social media. Health, I think, encompasses so many things, or it does for me. How do you define health?
As far as I'm concerned, as I've grown and evolved throughout, obviously many, many years of my life, and more particularly in my late 20s to my 30s to now my early 40s, I have recognized that health is very much circular. It encompasses mental, emotional, spiritual, as well as physical. Now, you mentioned there that I've been in the tech world for the last 25 years as well. And what I have learned being part of the tech industry is that there is no greater thing that we are consuming now as humans than technology. So that very much needs to be a part of the conversation as well. And to your point, is it moving us towards better health, or is it taking us away from our health and a deeper understanding of ourselves? And that's kind of what I'm here to talk about.
It's interesting because I actually am working with a startup company. They're developing software in the healthcare realm, and a lot of fear is around the replacement of physicians,
right?
And getting different answers, but also the fact that now we as regular people can have access to information that we never had access to before.
Yes.
Where do you think we sit now, with health and tech? What does that look like? Because it's moving so rapidly as well.
It is, and that is such a huge question. I think, on one angle, again, how tech is affecting our own personal health needs to be talked about. But tech in the healthcare system, that is a very separate issue. So, will physicians be replaced? I think that overall, when it comes to, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room here, right out the gate.
Yeah.
If it comes to AI, I don't think that there can be a level of human involvement that will ever be replaced.
I don't think so either. I think that's necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that us as individuals, we have to be very careful about whether or not, we are going to Google for our healthcare answers, or we're going to ChatGPT for, quite frankly, therapy.
Yeah.
I think we have to be very, very careful around that and dial it back a bit and understand that these are algorithms and systems that are there to literally learn how we tick and go from there. I think we need to bring it back to, again, that human interaction. Now, that to say as well, is our system doing us justice right now? We're going to get into it a bit later, but I have a very, mixed relationship with our healthcare system. I think on one hand, we have to take onus on ourselves and really understand what our body, what our minds, what our spirits are trying to tell us when it comes to bettering ourselves every day and again, making moves to push us towards better health. And I don't think that we need to go into doctors' offices and just sort of blindly take whatever it is that they're giving us. I think there is very much a mix, and right there lies the right answer.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's then get into all of this. How exactly do you define health? What does that mean to you? Besides it being, physical, spiritual, how do you take care of yourself?
That's a great question. Again, that's something that I have grown with and evolved with over the course of, I'm going to say, the better part of 15 years. Now, what led me towards better health was overall a deeper understanding of what my body, what my mind, and what my soul was trying to say. So, take you back 15 years ago, the long and short of the story is I didn't know a whole lot about what I was putting into my body and, the way that I was living every day. I was sort of just kind of putting the blinders on and just living every day. But I ended up getting into some health situations, health problems that I could not figure out. And so when I went into my doctor's office, what ended up happening is that he dismissed my symptoms right away and just threw a prescription at me and said, it sounds like this is what the issue is. Try this. And my problem got even worse. And that ended up sort of looping itself over the course of, I'm going to say, the better part of 8 months. And I was getting worse, and I was getting worse, and I was getting worse. And I sort of felt like I was cattle in a doctor's office. Like as much as I would go in, they would give me a prescription and send me right back out the door without there being a real investment into understanding what got me here, what the actual issue was, and how I was going to fix that permanently. Instead, it was just sort of these Band-Aid solutions.
Right.
And so when I was at a point of desperation and I no longer wanted to go into a doctor's office because it just continued to be letdown after letdown, I actually went to a naturopath and started looking at more holistic ways of healing myself. And what I will tell you, Nicole, is that a naturopath recommended 3 supplements to me. She said, take this in the morning, take 2 of these in the afternoon, take 2 of these before you go to bed, and see if this helps you at all. And in 48 hours, I will say that what a doctor could not figure out in 8 months started to clear up.
Wow.
Now, again, I want to preface this by saying this is not medical advice by any means. I just noticed that there was natural ways of healing my body, which I had never subscribed to before.
Yeah.
And so that sort of opened my eyes to the fact that, hey, maybe going into a doctor's office and just going on these prescriptions, maybe that's not the right answer, but maybe I need to empower myself through that. So out of that came a huge realization that I needed to start taking care of myself. So I started going to the gym. I started understanding our food system a lot better, what whole foods were versus what fast foods were, what was going to bring me to, betterment and longevity within my own body. And then a very interesting thing happened. And my emotional and spiritual side started to call at me.
Interesting.
So I started thinking a lot about, my past, my upbringing. There were certain things that I needed to heal. And I started looking into therapy to start diving into this a bit more. And I met an Indigenous healer who was also a therapist.
Amazing.
And she started teaching me a lot about, listening to my inner self and starting to tap into my intuition. And over the course of 2 years, that sort of brought the entire health solution right to the forefront for myself. And that sparked an entire new growth process for me. And I will say that that's just continued ever since.
That's really beautiful. And I think it's so, I like to say that more people are taking notice to the importance of spirituality and tapping into that. I think I can name a bunch of people that struggle with identifying and connecting with that.
Yes.
It's we are so in our physical body, somatic self, that we forget how to actually tune inwards. And then with that, I feel then that helps emotionally be able to communicate better, to be your best self, to show up and do all these other things.
Absolutely. And to that point, I have recognized that when I continue to push things down, push it down and not deal with it, that comes out sideways. And so as you're saying, it's very much a somatic thing where you hold stress in different areas of your body. And your physical self is going to start crying at you when you haven't taken care of the emotional and the spiritual self. So that is very much what I learned through Janine, who was my Indigenous healer therapist. She taught me the benefit of meditation every day and different kinds of therapy, like going into nature and giving yourself that quiet moment, unplugging, drum therapy, all kinds of different ways to heal yourself from within.
And it's interesting because different things are for different people as well. What maybe sound like, I know a lot of people have done sound baths and sound therapy, might work for somebody else, or somebody else needs to, maybe do something, I don't know, more active in like the tapping into spirituality, whether it be like walking or being with like elements, like
Water.
grounding yourself with water,
absolutely.
things like that. That's exactly it.
And you're absolutely right. For me, your question originally was, what does health mean to me? It's all of those things. It's unplugging, getting away from the noise, getting away from the algorithm so that I'm not constantly, overwhelming myself with information that's not necessarily, moving me towards a peaceful mindset. It's spending time in nature. I am a water sign. I tend to ground next to water. It's spending time in deep conversation like what we're doing here right now. This is healing for me. Building relationships. That's a huge thing for me. And working on relationships. I think there's something to be said about where we sit in today's world, and is quality relationships really at the forefront of everybody's mind. I think we live in a very fast-paced, very sort of surface world. And of course, movement. I am obsessed with moving my body. And if I don't, then I feel like I'm in a real slump. But it also comes down to what I'm consuming. So that goes in the form of content, food, water, all the things. So overall, I would say that for me is health.
And it makes a lot of sense. And I love how, you tackled one thing at a time that then like led you to where you're at today, which I think is really interesting as well.
Absolutely. I would say that health overall is very much a wheel. And when one part of that wheel is off, even in the littlest, the rest of that wheel is going to fall flat. So if there is a longing in yourself to look at a certain part, whether that be, a relationship that may have gone wrong, or you're dealing with grief, maybe you've lost a parent or somebody really special to you, a pet. If, it's been a long time since you've moved your body, maybe you've never moved your body and you don't even know what the benefit of that looks like for you. I would say those are things that we absolutely need to pay attention to. But again, what I talk about when it comes to tech is how technology is affecting us, and we are sitting for so many hours throughout the day. And what I find is that particularly when it comes to burnout and overwhelm, the way that we're trying to deal with that is by endlessly
sitting
scrolling.
More. Yeah, yes. It's so funny that you say that. And when you really think about it like that, it's quite scary. It's like, so we're all working super hard at our desks, longer hours, longer days, even from home. So there's less movement there because you're not going to and from work. I know a lot of people are being mandated to go back, but still it's not half as much as we used to do.
That's right.
Let's be honest.
Yep.
And then to retreat, we sit more and we scroll and we watch and we do nothing, which doesn't help.
And I love that we're having this conversation because I think a lot of times we think that the fix or the solution is going to cost us a lot of money. It's going to cost us a lot of effort. It's going to cost us a lot of time. And in the end, what it is simple solutions like getting up and going outside, taking in that fresh air, taking in a few deep breaths multiple times a day. As parents, I'm going to say, one of my biggest lessons this year was, recognizing what my personal tech consumption and tech usage, what that was teaching my son. As parents, are we sitting down and spending time with our kids eye to eye? Are we building quality and not quantity? Sometimes it's as simple of a solution like that. going for a walk, getting a walking pad in your home and just, moving your body, and then seeing whether that's going to spark something else in you so that you can take the further step.
I imagine it's especially difficult for you though. And so I commend you for making a conscious effort for doing this, because you work in tech.
Yes.
So that means you have to be on it and with it all the time.
It's so funny you talk about that, because I've struggled with that my entire career.
It's really hard.
Yes. And I've always wondered to myself, why do I feel like it's not a natural thing for me to be posting and boasting and
Yeah, I hear you.
doing all the things? And what I've come to recognize this year is that I am a literal embodiment of everything that I preach. I practice exactly what I preach. I don't feel the need to be on the algorithm or chase a following. What is more impactful for me is having an impactful conversation face to face. And that, again, going back to what we originally talked about at the beginning of this conversation, was that no tech anywhere is going to ever replace the benefit and the beauty of human to human, ever. And I think that we really need to spend our days being really, really mindful of that exact thing.
100%. I think it's as simple as like asking yourself these questions, or like having a conscious decision to like legitimately put down your phone.
That's it.
So it's interesting. I actually have two phones. I've become that person now.
Yes.
So I have like them. I literally, no word of a lie, I am like this. Like I'm like this and like this and like this, looking at them, typing at them all the time. But what I will say is, in doing that during the day, when I turn off now, all my social media is on one phone. So I put that phone away. And then if anyone needs to like get a hold of me for any sort of like, emergency, whether it be like a text message or a phone call, they can access like that, the other phone that I'll have on me. But as much as like that was honestly, the two phones is just for convenience of things and like because of memory.
Yeah, I get you.
I that separation has significantly helped, I think, my brain like turn off before I go to bed.
Well, I love that you are so mindful of that, because so many of us are not. And I just want to say, you're not the only one with your phone like super close nearby, right? Like we have it, and it's literally attached to the hip.
Literally.
Because again, we are also entrepreneurs and women in business. We don't want to miss that text. We don't want to miss that opportunity. We need to feel like we're constantly on. But what I will say about that is, today marks a month and 2 days that I have literally been unplugged from social.
No way.
So November is a big birthday month for our entire house. And then obviously Christmas is around the corner. So the last quarter of the year is a very meaningful quarter for our home. And this year I decided, instead of posting happy birthday and posting all the things we did, and we went away, thankfully, for vacation this year. So we got to get away for all of our birthdays. Instead of doing that, let me see what it just looked like to be fully invested and fully present in the moment, doing all the things. And what I will say about jumping back on, because I've tried, is it is so difficult now.
Yeah. Now that you've stepped away from it, it's
Yes.
like hard to like be in it. You're like, I just want it to go away.
So from a professional side of things, I get it, how we need to feel attached, but we really do need to make a conscious effort, especially over the holidays and certain periods of the day and certain times of the year, to just fully unplug and get away from it, especially where relationships are concerned. We need to give that our undivided attention, and tech is dividing us like nothing else. But on the personal side, I'm going to argue that we could probably use a whole lot less of the algorithm consumption. Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you 100%. It's not healthy for like a number of different things.
For sure.
And yet, you can't stop it.
No, I'm going to say we're never going to replace or eliminate, I should say. We're never going to eliminate technology. It is here to stay. We are very much living and existing in a digital world. And so the reality is that we just have to learn how to be balanced in the thick of it.
It's like take yourself out of it.
Correct.
I listened to an interview with Matthew McConaughey, and I don't know if you've heard this, but it was like he gave some sort of like remarkable stat around how people now create, or more dopamine is produced when people watch themselves on camera than when they're actually participating in the event itself.
Wow.
Which is like scary.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. In his
Right?
words.
Right?
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. Like that, if that's where we're moving, like everybody needs to reframe their shit. So like, we cannot have that from happening, because for me, I don't know about you, like when I see like, when I see a sunset, let's just say as an example, because that's something I like to obviously capture. My first instinct is to take out my phone and take a video or take a photo. And I really make sure, I mean, that's not a great instinct, but I limit it. I'm like, okay, this is a second I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this away. Now I'm going to put it away, and I'm going to just enjoy it with my own eyes. And that's the memory that I have, that I hold, not from the photo that is there sitting in my camera roll that I probably look at once every 7 years. You know what I mean?
So you know the people who are constantly like showing up like this and just telling their entire lives and talking all the things?
The selfie videos.
The selfie videos.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to? Is that dopamine is produced from that?
Dopamine is produced from watching the video back on your phone. So not even the action of doing this, of like showing yourself, hey, I'm doing this, that, not this. It's the watching the video of your phone, of you holding your phone, telling what you had done.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is fascinating. I have to look into that. I've never heard that.
Yeah. It's pretty scary.
It is.
I just, they say the world is advancing and everybody is afraid, and on so many levels of where our world is kind of headed. And it sounds ridiculous, but I think the way that we approach things like this will really have an impact and change things.
It is. And
I know that sounds so silly and maybe naive in saying that, but like the way that we act, then it's like the ripple effect. Someone else is going to do that. Someone else is going to do that. And then look, everyone is talking in a room and engaged and not on their phone and taking in moments. And do you know what I mean?
I have hope for the world. I just want to go back a second and say that as much as we are spiking dopamine, there's a real cause and effect to that. So yes, we are spiking our dopamine in this very surface way, but we are experiencing a crash in a very real way as well. And that's why there are so many mental health issues across the board. I want to talk about kids for a second because, I can say for myself, I'm sure you relate to this, Nicole. I grew up in an age and an era where, as a child and a teenager, the internet was like just born.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when I started my career in tech, it was at one of Canada's largest, biggest consumer electronic retailers, and at that time, iPods were first coming out, big cell phones and things like that. So I literally grew up in the technological revolution, as did you. And again, I'm sure you can agree that we were never sort of taught how to consume technology, how to keep up with it. Did we need it? Did we not?
We're like figuring it out as we go, so
exactly, precisely. And so with that, now we have birthed children, and we're responsible for raising the next generation. And on one scale, I think that the awareness piece of it is definitely growing, but there is a vast majority of kids who are consuming technology at a very concerning and a very large rate, and they're doing things like consuming YouTube shorts and all the things. I talk a lot about brain rot and what that's doing to our kids, entire neurological pathways. But I think it's really important that we teach them what dopamine is and what that feels like, and why when they're off of it or they're unattached, why they're feeling this very heavy crash, right? There is a way to replace fake dopamine with real dopamine. So if you're using YouTube for, let's say, hobby building, Like my son, he learned how to crochet this year
Wow.
through watching YouTube. He builds incredible things by watching YouTube. If you're using technology to build that creative spirit in yourself, I think that's the right answer.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I can't tell you the number of friends of mine who have young kids and they make such an effort to like, don't look at the TV, don't look at the phone. Don't.
Good.
It's like all this like,
Amazing.
but eventually though, your kid's crying in the car and you're
Sure.
like, take the iPad, I don't care. You're like, I like give up. You know what I mean? Like,
I definitely think there are certain scenarios that call for that, and that is okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want parents to ever feel like, oh my gosh, it's got to be one way or the other. Again, at the end of the day, the golden magic solution is the balance of it all. And I think that we have a tendency to not want to talk to our kids about the things that we're maybe learning. And this year, you know, we've had really real conversations with my son about dopamine and what that looks like. Real dopamine versus fake dopamine.
how old is your son?
He just turned 10.
Okay, so he's young. These are like big
They're
conversations.
huge
to have.
conversations.
Yeah.
And I will say that he very much ingested the information. He got it. He understood it way better than I thought.
Good for him.
Yeah.
But also, he's your son, so he's smart. He's a very smart boy.
I would say, you know, I've done a lot of talks with kids in schools, parents of young ones, parents and kids together, teenagers as well. And I think they are a lot more willing to understand the dangers than we give them credit for.
Interesting. How do you see that?
I think they understand that there is such a thing as brain rot. And why are we losing our focus the way that we are? Why are we feeling the emptiness that we're feeling when we're not on these devices? You know, they call a cell phone a cell for a reason. I heard this, you know, not too long ago, where, you know, it's literally a prison cell. You're in this box.
Oh, interesting. I've never thought of it like
You're
that.
locked in, girlfriend. You are locked in.
Yeah.
And so, you know, again, I think that kids are recognizing that they maybe are having a hard time focusing, or they are having a loss of interest, that they are feeling uncomfortable with, you know, person to person in contact relationships, or feeling a little bit socially awkward in a crowd.
Yeah, I can't tell you the amount of kids these days that I meet. I'm like, why is this kid so socially awkward?
Right.
And I feel bad saying that. But I say that in reflection to like, I feel like a lot of our like generation of kids weren't. Like we just didn't have that necessarily.
Because we had what is called C spaces.
What's that?
So nowadays, there are A and B spaces. So for a lot of people, what that means is home to work, home to school, school to home, work to home, right? So you're going in back and forth in between two places that you're very familiar with and you're comfortable with, and you know, maybe you feel safe within those environments. When you throw in a C space, which is what everybody is lacking, you throw in an opportunity to build within community.
Interesting.
So think about, you know, when you were a kid and when I was a kid, we were going out with our parents everywhere. If my parents wanted to party at a fam jam until 4 a.m., we were
there
doing it.
100%. And there's these memes of like an adult sleeping on like these chairs with like a coat. It's like, this is the reason why I can sleep anywhere. That's the same thing.
Right? So whether you agree with the space
Yeah.
or not, that's a C space. Or, you know, we were
Interesting.
in lessons, or we were
Yes.
out on the street. We were at friends' houses. We were in backyards. We were doing all of those things. And parents knew us and we knew them, and it was building community. Even when you take, you know, our age group, C spaces can look like, you know, your local gym or Pilates studio or yoga studio, or anywhere where you're building a hobby. A public library, how about that? When was the last time you went to a public library, to an event maybe that they were throwing? So, you know, there's many, many reasons and many layers, and I recognize that, as to why those C spaces are missing in people's lives. But I would say that if you start bringing that in, you're going to get a lot less socially awkward people. It forces you, again, to have those conversations. And when you're having those conversations, it might start surface, but the more you're around those people, it's the deeper and deeper and deeper it gets. And so what does that go to? That goes to your social health, your emotional health, probably your spiritual health, and definitely your physical health as well.
Yeah, I think making the intention to do that sort of thing is so important. And honestly, I'm setting out to do that in a big way this year. Sometimes I retreat, I would say, a little bit and kind of just stay. Like, I'm that person, Lisa, full disclosure. I'm that person that's like, I'll say hi to like somebody in the elevator, or like, you know, if someone walks by, and I live in a condo. But there are days where I'm like, I don't want to know my neighbors. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just put my head down and that's it. And I don't want to, you know.
Guilty as charged. Okay, guilty as charged. But you know, I've been doing some things this year that requires me serving community a lot more. So volunteering is a big one on my radar. And I will say that nothing's brought me greater fulfillment than that. Again, I think that more particularly when it comes to our age group, we have a tendency to be very transactional in relationships.
Totally.
And it's like, what can you do for me in this moment, in the short term? And that's the reason I'm going to talk to you, or that's the reason I'm going to answer your email. And I think what I have come to recognize is that relationships are very, very much, like the most quality ones, are built over a long-term game and a real interest in wanting to know the human behind everything. So, yeah.
That's really beautiful. I love that. And definitely a good intention to set in the coming year. And like for me, for example, like, okay, so love people, but I feel like I really connect with animals in like a better way than I do with people, ironically.
Any particular animal?
I really love dogs.
Okay.
We're
thinking of getting a dog, so I'm going to ask you all the things after this.
No problem.
Yeah.
I very much connect with animals, and I love dogs. And so I wanted to like volunteer at a shelter or something like that, Humane Society, or that's something I really want to do.
I think that is going to light you up in a way that you're not even aware of. And again, what that's going to do for you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that's just, please let me know if that ends up happening.
I will for sure.
My fingers are crossed for
What
that.
kind of dog are you looking at getting?
We don't know yet, but you know, we're looking at small to medium.
Yeah.
And my son is an only child. And we're trying to figure out ways to light him up from the inside without going towards fake dopamine.
Yeah, a dog is a great addition to the family as like a unit. You're gonna feel it, and then I think for him and the relationship that he'll have with the animal too.
Yeah,
it's a really special thing.
Well, I hope my husband's listening because we need his sign off. Wink, wink.
Just tell him to give me a call, and I will push that forward any day, Lisa, any day. Okay, so I want to take it back to one of the first things that we were talking about a little bit earlier was about the healthcare system. And this is a bit of a heavier conversation because I want to make a point in saying, yes, we live in Canada and we are fortunate to have the healthcare that we do, free access, but it does come with some hardships. And by some, I mean, I know you have a story to share about that, and I've experienced that as well. And I honestly feel like almost every Canadian probably has at some point in their life.
Absolutely. I think, you know, as I was explaining earlier, I've had a very love-hate relationship with our healthcare system in many ways. Obviously, you know, it has come in very handy for healing, you know, many different illnesses within our family. My mother has had 3 major spinal fusion surgeries.
Oh, wow.
You know, without those surgeries and great talented surgeons, there's a very strong likelihood that she would be in a wheelchair, but she is not. Wow. My mom is very physically active. She works out every single day.
Wow.
So huge kudos to the doctors that have helped her in those spinal surgeries, as well as her for taking her own health into her own hands. And again, that sort of proves my point into, you know, I think it comes down to both parties taking onus for their health. That's where you get the magic solution. But, you know, again, there is a different reality where I think for women and women of color especially, symptoms can be quickly dismissed. I find that overall, that very cattle feeling is very prevalent now. I think we're living in a system that is obviously very, very broken. You're dealing with a tremendous amount of nurses that are very burnt out. there isn't enough staff, there isn't enough beds. So there's a lot to be said around that. Where is the solution with that? Potentially virtual healthcare. I think that could be a great solution. But in the case of, I think we're going to get into this, where I lost my father, I lost him to a medical error. So, that built a lot of distrust in me around whether or not our health care system is actually there to care or just patch and send you on your way.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry for your loss. When did he pass away?
So my dad passed away 8 years ago. It was Thanksgiving weekend. Now, my dad was a diabetic for almost his entire life. He got diagnosed here in Canada. We are very grateful for that. He got diagnosed as a diabetic when he first came in his 20s. And, as a Caribbean man, I will say, could he have taken better care of his health and his diabetes as he aged? Absolutely, he could have. But this was, a very severe form of diabetes, which eventually led to kidney failure. So he got diagnosed with kidney failure in his very early 60s. And he went on to dialysis. So he was getting dialysis 3 times a week for 5 hours at a time.
Oh, my goodness.
Extremely draining on the body. And he was put on a list for a kidney transplant. Now, in 2018, he called me. I was at home, and he got a match for his kidney to be replaced. So there was an organ donor, and this organ was coming in from Winnipeg. So he was called to one of the top organ transplant hospitals in the country, in fact, in North America.
Wow.
So again, we were very, very lucky. He went in for the transplant. The organ arrived, and the surgeon who was operating on him at the time nicked his intestine and did not know. So while the organ transplant went very well, they put him back together and did not realize that, for a week in recovery, he was going septic.
Oh my God.
And it was about a week before we had even recognized the signs. So there was a particular day when he was in a lot of excruciating pain. He had not had his first solid meal until a week after the surgery. So I believe that it was the solid meal that sort of, set off alarm bells everywhere. Yeah. Because obviously that full solid meal would have had to be digested. So, in comes other organs, right? When we recognized that something was drastically wrong, he went into surgery again. And that's when they recognized that, oh my goodness, there was a nick in the intestine and this nick has been leaking. Anyways, they went to find where the perforation was, could not find it, put him back together again, claimed that, it's likely that the perforation had healed on its own. And then we came to find out another week later that he was still leaking and still going septic. So there was, there was so much negligence across the board. What is, very, very troubling and problematic is that prior to every surgery, obviously, you're signing away your rights in case anything goes wrong. So do we have a leg to stand on? I'm not really sure. At the end of the day, what this, process of him going septic led to was very intense brain damage. It led to the kidney, the brand new kidney failing. And then ultimately he was showing no signs of brain activity.
Oh my goodness.
Had he lived, he would not have had any kind of quality of life. But ultimately he did end up getting pneumonia, and he did pass away on his own. So, I do absolutely have a lot to say about that particular situation. Should we have lost him? Absolutely not.
No, it's
on the spiritual side, was it his time to go? I have faith in that. Do I still have a relationship with my dad? Absolutely. And we could talk about this for days. I would say that I am more connected to him than I've ever been. So I feel him with me every single day in every single thing that I do. So while, the loss of somebody physically is very, very difficult to deal with, and grief is a very big topic to dive into, I would say that there is another side to it, and you gain them spiritually and you connect with them in a very, very large way.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of my experience with the healthcare system. And as a result of all the things and all of my several experiences with myself, my mom, my father, that is why I'm so passionate about getting a message of health fulfillment out there to anybody who's listening.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so incredibly sorry for your loss. I can't even imagine the anger and frustration with how you walk in with something and you couldn't walk out because of something else that
That's right.
wasn't even there.
Absolutely. You talk about that, and the morning that we got the call that it would likely be his last hours, we got to the hospital, and I remember in the very last moments, I was in the bed with him. And when all was said and done and he had passed, I looked at his clothes and his bag that we took into the hospital with him, and I thought that exact thing. I cannot, I would have never imagined that we would be walking out with his bag, his overnight bag, and I'd be wearing his baseball hat, walking out of that hospital without him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you recover from that?
It's interesting.
Because there's so many layers to that.
There are so many layers, and you're absolutely right. Was there a level of, extreme anger, extreme loss, confusion? Absolutely. And there still is. But, I think that the deeper you get into stillness and a place of quiet is the more that you can hear answers. And I do feel like it was his time. I've had to come to peace with that.
Mm-hmm.
But also connect with him and hear him. And I absolutely can do that. So I no longer feel loss. I feel a tremendous level of gain.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, grief is not sort of like, one direction lane. You're twisting and turning all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just yesterday, I had a moment. Because why? The holidays are here.
Yeah.
And growing up, my dad was like the best gift wrapper. He was the best gift wrapper.
Those are few and far between.
I know.
Gift wrapping is very difficult. So
shout outs to him, because he worked in the paper industry. He worked in a paper factory. So he was really good with paper. So he was a great gift wrapper, and he used to sit me on the table while he'd be wrapping gifts. And my job would be to cut tape, and it was like, it was an assembly line.
Like an assembly line. Exactly.
And I found myself yesterday thinking about all the gifts that I had to wrap, and that I was just going to get my son to cut the tape, and he would help me. And that just took me right back.
Yeah.
It took me right back. And I was like, wow, really miss him. Because the holidays was his thing. His favorite movie was Home Alone. He would laugh at that scene where, Marv would get the bricks thrown on his head. Like every single year, it was like he'd see it for the first time.
Yeah.
And the holidays are really, really special for us, especially as it concerns my parents. But, you never really know when grief is going to hit you. And I can't say that I'm ever going to be over it, but I have a definite understanding of it. And there has certainly been healing along the way.
I hope in the moments that you know, when that grief is oncoming and on moments like that, and you know, you are doing something that reminds you of him, that you feel his spirit with you.
100%.
Because I firmly believe that, like, I don't think things like that are on accident. I actually think moments like that are reminders. Like, that's his way of reminding you to take notice to that moment.
Yes.
To like think of that something that you shared with him, alongside the fact that he's there presently with you and your family now.
100%. And I see him in my son every single day.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. I'm constantly looking for the signs. And I think my faith has definitely brought me to a deeper understanding of where he is spiritually and how he still provides for me to this day.
Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful. And it aside from the spirituality piece to this, how has this changed your approach to healthcare? And, you know, because I imagine now, like when you see a physician or you go in somewhere, not only is there anxiety, a different level of worry probably of, am I really getting the best care? And asking questions like that, but also accountability and really taking ownership of, like you said earlier, not only asking yourself the questions or exploring things before you walk into somewhere to seek that help, but also then advocating for yourself of, no, like that's not going to be enough to fix this. Like I don't want to just take a pill.
Yes.
Let's go to the root of where this issue is, say for example.
I think it's really important to have advocacy. So whether that's you advocating for yourself, or let's say you have a senior parent who is aging and they're walking into a doctor's office and, you know, all that medical jargon is going over their head. We as kids need to be very actively involved with how our parents are aging, or, you know, have a caregiver nearby who can be that second layer of ears and eyes. For our kids, I think we need to be very on top of what we're taking them to the doctor for, you know, how the solutions are being presented and whether or not those fixes are temporary. Are they Band-Aids? Or are they fixes that can really, you know, move us in the right direction? Again, I think there is very much a balance between what our physicians and doctors are able to tell us and what we are doing on our side to make sure we are living at optimal health each and every single day. And optimal health does not mean you are 10 out of 10 every day. You know, that you could be 70-30. And the idea is that you are investing in your health and any one compartment of your health daily. And you're just super mindful of that. But I think once you have those two things, you're heading in the right direction. Now, I do want to say that there are a vast number of Canadians who currently do not have a physician and they cannot get a physician. So walk-in clinics are overwhelmed. You know, Google is overwhelmed by finding the answers and us self-diagnosing, and that is a real problem.
That is a real problem.
I very much empathize with that. And again, I think that comes down to a broken system that needs a lot of attention. Obviously, that is way higher than what we're talking about today. But I think Canadians need to start getting real loud about that. Nurses need to be treated very fairly. They need to be compensated fairly. They're doing so much for us. So we also have to recognize that. But I would say that in my line of work, what I have found, and again, this is sort of the silver lining of tech, is that once again, there are several virtual healthcare providers that are trying to be the, the fix to a human-to-human interaction between patient and physician.
And I totally agree with you. And I only hope that more, software developers and like people on the back end of things, like use AI in a way that is like a trusted source, because we want it to be trusted and giving us the right information. And that's the problem, is that there's so much misinformation out there.
Definitely.
That is clouding our world and our say like whether it be, you know, like mental therapy that you're asking for help online of like fix my problem, and you know it's giving you a trash solution or a solution that really is not unbiased because of everything that lives on the internet. Like you think of all the bad stuff that people write to be true, that just isn't. That is fake news.
Absolutely.
And fake results and fake credentials and fake papers that are being used to give you these answers. And that goes again, like it crosses so many different, I think, like verticals in your life, whether that be mental health, physical health. And so, yeah, I hope and I see that AI is going to be used in a way to drown out the noise and give you the right information, and hopefully that can help fix some of the cluster.
I think AI is a very slippery slope. That in itself is like, we're going to be here until 2027 if we talk about that particular thing. When I'm talking about virtual healthcare, what I'm referring to are virtual healthcare providers that pair patient and physician. So there are a lot of very talented physicians within Canada that have now offered their services on, let's say, an app.
Yeah, to be able to virtually call in or a video chat or whatever.
Exactly. And that is so much better than what you're talking about with.
Yeah, but I think that that's how AI can be used, though, is what
Absolutely.
I'm saying.
I think we're going to get there.
It could make even more of an impact. Like virtual is great, but it still takes time and it's still
investment.
Not solving, and there's still investment. Like there's still, I think, is potential to be able to help people and like, you know, almost create. It's not like you're going to read 70 papers, you know, on a possible diagnosis. But what if there was a way that we could read that or understand that?
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
of
I
like
agree.
Trusted sources.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Ask questions.
Right.
Or to inquire further.
A great practical example is during the summer, I got something called costochondritis.
What is that?
So during my pregnancy, you know, I'm of a smaller frame. I had a very big baby. He had nowhere to push his bum when I was pregnant, so he would like lodge himself in between my ribs.
Oh.
So I got something during pregnancy called rib flare, and obviously now that he's out, he's 10 years old, my rib is not where it's
not back in place.
It will never be back in place.
Oh.
So the long and short of the story is that I pulled my rib during the summer, and I had no clue that that was actually the situation that I ended up in. So there is a term for it called costochondritis. So I go into my doctor's office and he's like, oh yeah, you have costochondritis. And I was like, what is that? Mm-hmm. So he gave me sort of the quick spiel, because obviously he had a waiting room full of patients. He needed to get me out. But absolutely, I went home and I figured out what this was on my own by diving deep using various different platforms. So you're right. We can absolutely stay educated and on top of our health by using AI as a tool.
I just want to take a second to also shout out my mom, because as you mentioned, you know, it's important that we look after our seniors right now and our kids. Those are like two groups, I think, that are vulnerable.
Very much so.
That we need to take responsibility in terms of healthcare to make sure that they are not just getting jargon and that they understand what's going on and we give them the right solutions and care. And my grandparents this past a few months have had massive health issues. And if it wasn't for my mom being like their nurse essentially and like doctor of being their voice and understanding, I guarantee they wouldn't be here.
Well, what a blessing your mom is. Yeah. And I'm sure, you know, as a result of your mom's good nature, you are probably very much a very big blessing to her. And I think that overall is a testament to why community is so important and why, you know, being present and mindful with the members in your family is critical. That is critical care, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know how it is when someone is ill, in my family anyway. It's like you just rally and you do everything that you can.
Sure.
And be there, you know?
Absolutely. And what I will say on behalf of seniors is that there are a lot of them who are completely alone.
I feel so bad. There's like nothing more heartbreaking than seeing like elderly alone and no one to like be their voice or help them. And it's wild, and it makes me upset because they pay taxes their entire life and come to this country and work so hard and then don't get the care that they've invested in for their whole life.
100%.
You know,
I have so much to say about that particular topic alone. Going back to one of my greatest lessons around my dad's death, one of my biggest regrets is that I was not more actively involved in his health and health care. He was obviously very much, you know, a dad's dad, right? Like, he didn't want to put any burden on my sister and I. He didn't want to tell us what was really going on. So we just sort of took that for granted. But what I will say is that if you do have members in your family that, whether they have needs or not, I just think that we all need to spend a little bit more time finding out what's happening in each other's lives.
Yeah. How are you actually feeling?
Yes.
Like, how are you feeling?
Absolutely.
It sounds ridiculous.
You know, there's two things that I think are missing in the world right now. And that is the ability to say thank you from a really sincere place, and to say, how are you, from a really sincere place, where it is completely unplugged. You are disconnected. You are just right there, eye to eye, with whoever it is that you are talking to, from your heart space, from the most genuine place, with the most genuine intentions. I think we are really, really missing that. And, you know, take it to your home circle. Let that be the first thing. You know, again, we're here shooting over the holidays. You know, whether your listeners hear this over the holidays or not, I just want them to take away one stat, and that is that Canadians across the board, there are upwards of 47% of us who are no longer having a meal at the table. Forget about having a meal together.
Wow. At a table.
Individually. We are no longer eating at a table. Now, can I ask, did you grow up that way, where you were not eating at a table?
That was like mandated in my household. It was like, you are sitting down and you are eating your meal.
Yes.
There's no TV. There's nothing. And in fact, until the meal was done, we were not allowed to leave the table.
There you go, right? So there was a ritual. There was a process. Setting the table. There was somebody cooking a meal at home. To your point, there was no TV on. Maybe there was a radio on. And whether people were fighting or not in the house, sometimes my sister and I were completely at odds. Sometimes my parents weren't talking to each other. Regardless, everybody in the house could have been beefing, but you are coming to that table for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What did that do for the family dynamic? It brought everybody together. It sparked conversations. It gave us a greater sort of, you know, conflict resolution ability. Everybody knew what was going on in everybody's lives. And now everyone is sort of in their own corners. And if we are at the table, we're bringing cell phones to the table.
Yeah.
I just want all of your listeners to take one thing away, if at all, right? Take all the things, but if you take one thing away from this conversation, can we bring back a meal?
Yeah.
Where we are enjoying that together as a family, as a couple, as friends, as girlfriends, as parents and kids. Like, let's seriously start doing that again, because I think that will fix so much of what is missing.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Before we go, I just really quickly want to talk about a really important anniversary that you have coming up.
Yeah.
Because 25 is a big number.
It is. So, been in the tech world for 25 years. So yay, that's also coming up.
Yes.
But I met my husband 25 years ago.
Wow.
So we both met at Future Shop. I'm just going to say it.
Stop.
Shout outs to Future Shop at Warden and Highway 7. They're no longer there, but it was the Markham location. And it's funny. So many couples got married from meeting at that store.
That
and they're
is
still married to
amazing.
this. So clearly something was in
amazing.
the air.
Oh, I missed out.
Yeah, right? But yes, we have been together for 25 years and married for 14.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a big one. I know.
What is the secret, Lisa? Share it.
I wish I could give one magic solution. But I will say that it's the ability to really choose each other every single day, regardless. We are never 50-50. I'll just say that. Sometimes I'm 70, sometimes he's 30, 80-20, whatever it is. We lift each other. There is a real deep respect in understanding where we are at, because no 2 days are ever the same. We have in no way, shape, or form been the same versions of ourselves over the last 25 years. It doesn't even feel like 25 years, to be honest. We've probably been like 4 to 5 versions of ourselves. So it doesn't feel like, here we are evolving over the course of 2 decades and more. We have just been sort of moving along and developing and dying personally and rebirthing personally, and just trying to understand that with our own goals in mind as well.
But as that happens, it really is easy for so many people to go different ways.
Yeah.
Because when you die and reborn, you could be someone that doesn't all of a sudden, this new version of me maybe doesn't align with this person. Like, how do you make sure that there's alignment with growth in a relationship?
There is a lot of communication. I'm going to say, if I had to pick one thing, it's communication coupled with consideration. And when you have those two things coming from both parties, you are going to get through it, because there is a willingness to understand where the other person is at all the time. Have we always been great communicators? No. We've had some, blowouts.
People lose their shit, for
yeah,
sure. That's
for
normal.
sure. But I will say it always comes down to, how can I be better for you? And how can I be better for me? My relationship has been my greatest teacher, truly, because it has been the mirror that I have needed to see in myself.
Yeah.
Even when I have not wanted that.
For sure. It's hard to, not for anything, but like, you're perfect. So, but sometimes you got to be told that maybe you could work on a couple of things. I understand that.
It has been my biggest mirror, truly. So obviously there's a willingness on my side to see that too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The willingness needs to be there, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, what's going on next for you? What do you have going on in 2026, Lisa?
I'm going to say I'm going to keep going down this path of talking to people, not about the gadget. I'm not interested in the gadget. We are living in a time where we are overwhelmed with, the latest, greatest, fastest, thinnest, smallest, whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it's how you are living in this digital age, how you're showing up as a human in this digital age. And you're going to hear me getting a lot louder about that, for sure.
I love that.
Across all age groups.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It is so necessary. And I hope that this echoes the importance of that.
For sure. I will say, I did hear recently that we're going to start to see, content become less of a thing. And in-person events and experiences become more of a thing.
Love to hear that.
And so what I will say to everybody is, if you have the opportunity to go to something where you can experience joy firsthand, if it feels right to you, if it feels aligned, go for it. Please go for it, because that will be the ripple effect for you participating in so many more things that bring you joy. And when you have joy, everybody else around you has joy.
For sure. It is contagious.
It is. That's why we're together.
Exactly. Okay, so Lisa, tell everybody where they can follow you, find you, ask you questions.
For sure. Well, I have 2 pages, and that's at It's Lisa Chang or at The Health Tech Up. Reach out with anything, anytime.
Yay. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all your advice and wisdom and stories, personal. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole. You're the best.